in the urban city of Algiers, the protagonist Marisol receives a letter informing him of his mother's death. Standing beside her coffin, Marisol simply smokes a cigarette, drinks coffee, and dozes off as if he was unfazed by his mother's death. During the funeral procession, Marisol's thoughts are not preoccupied with the death of his mother, but rather with annoyance for the unbearable heat of the sun. Returning from the funeral, he meets a former co-worker, Marie Cardona, to whom he proceeds to invite on a date and watch a comedy. All of this occurring a mere day after his mother's death. The following day, Marisol encounters his neighbor Raymond, who is known for his service. Previously, Raymond had physically assaulted his mistress after discovering she had an affair. Wanting to torment her even more, he asks Marisol to write her a letter, asking her to return. Marisol agrees to this request indifferently. The following Saturday, at Marisol's apartment, Marie asks whether he loves her and whether or not he wants to marry her. Once again, Marisol responds indifferently, agreeing to marry her if that is what she desires. The following Sunday, at a friend's beach house, Raymond and Marisol encounter two Arabs on the beach, one of whom was the brother of Raymond's mistress. They engage in a quick skirmish, during which Raymond receives a knife wound and the Arabs retreat. After going to a local doctor for treatment, Raymond takes a walk with Marisol to a spring at the end of the beach, where they once again encounter the Arabs. Marisol convinces Raymond not to engage with his firearm. Marisol takes a gun from Raymond and returns to the spring that they had just come from in order to escape the waves of solar radiation beating upon him from above. He arrives at his destination, only to discover the mistress' brother lying in the shade, blocking his escape from the burning sun. Marisol removes the obstacle by shooting him, and then proceeds to empty the magazine into the dead corpse. We are now taken to the jail, where Marisol is provided a lawyer, who consequently finds disgust in Marisol's lack of remorse regarding both the Arab and, more importantly, his mother's passing. Later, in the prison cell, Marisol slowly adapts to prison life, ridding himself of his isolation. He grows accustomed to his new life without his usual comforts, such as cigarettes. During the trial in the courtroom, the prosecutor attacks Marisol for his lack of morality, not for committing the murder itself. In a final outcry, the prosecutor declares Marisol an immoral monster and a threat to the structure of society. Marisol makes no attempts to defend himself against the attacks, and he is ultimately sentenced to a public execution. In the final scene, Marisol awaits his death, struggling with the certainty of his fate. When the town chaplain arrives, urging repentance, Marisol snaps. He begins on a tirade against the chaplain, passionately defending his belief in a meaningless, physical world where human existence holds no greater meaning. As he accepts the gentle indifference of the world, Marisol finally feels happy. Analysis. The central meaning of the stranger pertains to society's morals and the threat imposed by a single individual with differing morals. The foundation of any society, good or bad, are its morals. When Marisol acts independent from the moral code of society, He is branded a monster and sent to his death. When Marisol is talking to the chaplain, he realizes that he is making the chaplain feel uncomfortable. Mostly, I could tell, I made him feel uncomfortable. He didn't understand me and he was sort of holding it against me. I felt the urge to reassure him that I was like everybody else, just like everybody else. In actuality, he bears similarities to all people. Everyone has their own set of morals, and the only difference is whether you are amongst those who share the same morals. People generally tend to feel safer when their morals match those of the people around them, so it becomes unsettling when any particular person decides to deviate from the norm. Camus, building on the absurdist's recognition that life has no greater meaning, demonstrates that happiness can be found in man's seemingly bleak existence. With hope comes the pain of never being able to obtain what is hoped for. To recognize the hopelessness of life, one can truly find peace and happiness in their existence. After Marisol finishes his tirade, he feels a sense of closure. It was as if that great rush of anger had washed me clean, emptied me of hope, and gazing up at the dark sky spangled with signs and stars, for the first time, I laid my heart open to the benign indifference of the universe. For most of the book, Marisol struggles to maintain his existential view of the universe while under the constant pressure from society to conform. In this moment, he finally escapes the pull of society and fully embraces the inexplicable nature of the universe.